You get athletes who just turn up. They'll turn up, they'll do the requisite amount of work, but that's it. Athletes who turn up to compete, they put a bit more effort in. They try to be the best amongst their group. Then there's the athletes who train to win. They train every day, every session, so that they win on match night. And then there are just those very few players who train to dominate. They train so hard that winning is inevitable.
I used to think Bobby Fischer and Paul Murphy were the most aggressive chess players until I saw this beautiful game from Rashid Nezhmetdinov. This game is actually on another level, an absolute disrespect for material, and this is a game I'm actually very, very excited to share with everybody. I think I need to state before I begin my analysis of this game that Rashid did not become a grandmaster because he was obsessed with tactics, attacks, and complications, even if there was none. So he always went into every game going to attack, and that was the reason he did not become a grandmaster. If he attacked, he could kill anybody, even Tao. Because of this, be prepared for the greatest attack in chess history. The game starts with d4, knight f6, c4, g6. White continues their development with knight c3, and black challenges the center with d5. From this point on, the game transitions into a very known opening in chess, the Grunfeld defense. After the move e4 and we get the exchange of the knights, black's strategy is to forfeit the center and then later challenge it with c5 to question the integrity of white's pawn structure. Rashid does not care about any of the tension in the center and sharply plays the move bishop b5. This move, as you saw on the thumbnail of the video, is the worst move of the game, which is actually an excellent move. Every other move he played after this move are nothing short of brilliance. The benchmark for this game is really, really high, which makes it an exceptional and rare game. Black could respond in different ways to this move. There is bishop d7, there is knight d7, and there is also knight c6. Unfortunately, black responds with the least appealing move, which is knight c6. This walks into a pin, and white takes advantage of the pin with the move d5, attacking the pinned knight to the king. To the best of my knowledge, the natural response to this move would have been to play a6, attacking the bishop that is pinning the knight. So if white takes the knight, black can then restore parity by capturing the bishop, and the game would continue peacefully. But peace was not at home when this game was played. So black plays the move queen to a5. This move is an appealing one. The queen in this position is not only attacking the bishop, but also the pawn on c3. And if you check further, after that, there is also an imminent fork of the king and the rook on a1 after the pawn is captured. In all of this turmoil, Nas plays a move which screams, "Call the ambulance but not for me." The brilliant move Nas plays is queen to a4. Nas totally ignores all of the threat I mentioned earlier and chooses to triple down his attack on that pin. Black couldn't be more grateful with this move, so he captures the c3 pawn and also checks the king, and is also threatening to capture the rook on a1. Any chess player as white in this position would definitely panic, but Nas is just a chilled guy. He plays a move which is daring and also shows his lack of respect for material. We get king e2 on the board. This move gives up a rook, and it also begs the question, what exactly is Nas's plan? Nas already calculated it is going to be bad if black takes on a1. What do I mean? If that capture happens, Nas would respond by taking the knight with his pawn. And if his opponent insists on grabbing more material by capturing the bishop that is undefended, we would have pawn to c7, which is a discovered check. Black would have to block with the bishop, and the next move will be checkmate. So rather than falling into this trap, black plays the move bishop to d7. Although it is not obvious, this move is another mistake by black. Black keeps contesting the diagonal with white, rather than planning to castle to bring their king out of the center. What black doesn't know is, if white manages to get a breakthrough and exposes the king, it would be total destruction. And we will witness this destruction as the game unfolds. In response to black's bishop move, Nas plays a move that was not found by the engine at depth 14. That means the engine looked 14 moves ahead and did not find this move. The move in question is d takes on c6. Although this move seems obvious, it is actually laced with danger. We all know black has a rook to capture on a1, but they cannot take it because they must actually address this pawn. If they insist on taking the rook, leaving the pawn unaddressed, the game will continue with c takes on b7. The rook is hanging and the bishop is hanging as well. So black would have to move the rook to save it, and in response, we will get bishop takes on d7. And if we get rook takes on d7, the king will get mated with a new queen. As I've explained, this variation is not a viable option. So black responds with pawn takes on c6, and then white recaptures with the bishop. We then get rook to d8 by black to save the rook from being captured with a check, and Naz responds with another brilliant move that does not even sacrifice a piece. As if this is not enough, this move is the only winning move in this position. Any other move would be bad. Wow. I've said this before and I will say it again. The best of chess was played in the past. Kudos to players like this who were grinding out these moves without engines. If they had engines, I'm sure we wouldn't be getting positions like this that would allow players to express their creativity and grit, what chess truly stands for. What is the idea behind this queen move and why is it brilliant? Well, let's look at every possibility to deduce that. If black takes the queen, white will have time to save their bishop as the capture comes with a check. And as black addresses that check, white will then recapture the queen with the pawn on a2. The second option in this position, which is taking the bishop, is definitely not possible because white will simply capture the queen. In the game, black took the rook on a1 and Naz swiftly responds with bishop to b2, attacking the queen. Black has walked into a queen trap, but it appears they do not know yet. Notice all the squares on the first rank are controlled by white's pieces. So black had no other option than to move their queen to b1, which was the only safe square. The next move by white is one I cannot put words to. I probably need to learn another language to be able to describe perfectly this move. The move is knight f3. I don't know if I should describe this move as a discovered attack or not. It is a discovered attack because that move exposes the rook to the queen. It is also not a discovered attack because the queen can simply capture the rook. Even with that, we cannot throw away the fact that this move is also a passive way of attacking because although the rook is being captured, the queen is being attracted to the corner of the board where its value drops drastically. Just take a closer look at the black queen. She's not controlling any square on the first rank. Any square it is controlling is also being contested by the white piece. This queen in this position is as good as a pawn, and this is what greed causes. When you take too much material, you will get the consequences. This queen has been turned into a pawn because of greed. Now let's take our attention back to the move knight f3. Why is this a brilliant move? The answer is actually simple. It brings another piece into the attack on the black king, and this is shown in white's next move, knight to e5. This move threatens checkmate on f7, which will be very, very hard to defend. Before we go further, just take a look at the material advantage black has. Black is up 8 points, but that does not even matter because of the position. This is a very sad day in the office for black. Well, black plays e6. I would have played e6 as well because there is no other move. This move actually blocks the diagonal, but guess what? Take a look at black's bishop. If you cannot see it, I can see sweat rolling down the armpit of that bishop because it is attacked twice, and that would open up the king if the attack is executed. Naz matches on with bishop takes on d7. In the game, black chooses the lesser evil and takes with the rook. And it was at this moment that Naz found a first mate sequence of 9 moves. I'm not going to tell you to pause the video to attempt to find this, but if you can, go on. I would just caution you because when I also tried, I started to feel dizzy. The first mate sequence started with queen to b8 check. Black has 2 options in this position. If they play king to e7, knight to c6 will be a beautiful mate. Take a look at how the queen and the bishop are controlling all the escape squares of the king. Unfortunately, that did not happen in the game. To delay the checkmate, we get rook to d8. And the first mate sequence continues with queen to b5 check. Black is forced to bring the king downwards to e7 because blocking with the rook would definitely lead to checkmate. The game continues with queen to b7 check. The king's options are limited. If it went to d6, we would have a beautiful checkmate with knight takes on f7. That line did not occur in the game, so black plays the move king to f6, bringing the king out of his kingdom. We get the natural move queen takes on f7 check. The king once again is forced out of his kingdom. Naz has a lot of options in this position, but he is not content with just any moves. He keeps playing and finding the brilliant moves, which are the hardest to find. The next move he plays is so hard to find because it is actually a retreating move. That move is no other than knight f3 check. The queen is in control of all the squares and the knight also controls others, meaning the king only has 3 squares available. The first option, king to h6, that would be equivalent to having a cardiac arrest because the death of the king would be just in 3 moves. We would have queen to f4 check, then king to h5, and the game would finish with queen to g5 checkmate. For the second option, I'm going to equate that with getting beaten by a black mamba. Life oozes out of the king with queen to g4 check, then we would get king to h5, and then queen to h3 checkmate. The third option is the slowest of them all, and that was actually what happened in the game. I would equate this to being constricted by a python, a slow and painful ending to the king's life. It starts with king to h5, and in response to this, Nas gives off a pawn to further attract the king out of their kingdom. After that, we get queen to e6 check. The king is forced to f4. We then get bishop to e5 check. The king is forced to capture on e4. And then the game ends with knight to g5 checkmate. Just take a look at this position. I like the fact that the king and the queen can stare at each other at the end of the game. So the king will die knowing fully well he was betrayed by the queen, who was meant to be by his side, but chose to flirt about till she got trapped within the enemy's kingdom. Do you know another piece in this situation that feels trapped? Well, that is my YouTube channel. If you love my video, kindly subscribe to get me to 1K. I feel trapped within the net of 1K at this point. I feel like the Black King. Please get me out of this net. I will pay you back with more exciting and brilliant game reviews and even more. If you enjoyed my analysis in this video, I am 100% sure you would enjoy this video on your screen, one of the rarest games in chess as well, whereby, as you can see in the thumbnail, a player got checkmated by the king. Thank you very much for watching my video to this point. More importantly, have a nice day. Bye. See you next time.